the advantage to the project that's been audited by you is that they can say, hey, listen, we've been checked out by Assured DeFi, and as far as they can tell, they've decided that we're pucker, kosher.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to describe it. It's a win for everybody. The business was designed so that every stakeholder, from platforms, influencers, the project itself, and also investors, it's really a win for all of them. When you look at it from a project perspective, and that's who our client is, they pay us in order to come and take that accountability. The benefit for them is this is a marketing play. It's a way to differentiate themselves versus the millions of other tokens that are out there that people could potentially buy and participate in. What I encourage everyone to do is exactly what I do personally. I get requests every day to invest in private sales, pre-sales, buy tokens. I get shilled live tokens that are available to buy on decentralized exchanges and large projects. I get asked to be an influencer for projects, be part of teams, work with them. These types of requests are daily and they're plentiful, I'll say. My response is always this: get verified and then I'll consider it. What I think investors should be doing more is when they find a project they like, they should see whether that team has been verified. If the team isn't verified, they should be telling the team and encouraging them and demanding them to get verified. You guys aren't verified right now, so I have no protection. I like the project. I like what I see here. I'm interested in investing, but I'm not going to where there's no accountability in place. If people started saying that to teams, teams would realize that there's value in getting verified, and then this would become more of an industry standard, just like audits have become.
Take the first step towards online privacy. Get NordVPN.
Buy crypto, off-ramp crypto, pay bills with crypto, spend crypto, all made easy with SPRITZ Finance app. Get $25 cashback with my link for qualifying transactions. Go to bit.ly/crypto-rich-spritz, bit.ly/crypto-rich-spritz. Web 3.0 is growing like crazy and more people are moving into the blockchain space. But how can you be sure that the people behind the projects that you could be participating in are the real deal? That's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. Hi everybody, it's Crypto Rich, working with you to get rich with crypto, filling our pockets with crypto profits. I am joined by one of the team, I think the founder, the CEO of Assured DeFi. This is we'll find out. This is a verification service for Web 3.0 projects. Now, before I introduce him, please subscribe, follow me on Twitter, CryptoRichYT. If you're watching this on YouTube, come and support my work on ODYSEE and on Rumble, where I'm not censored, also on X, and join my official Telegram announcements group. Hey, Chapo, thank you so much for making yourself available.
Absolutely. Pleasure to be here, Rich.
Thank you. Now, I reached out to you via X. I think we encountered each other on X. You are the CEO or the founder or something of AssuredDeFi.com, and I'll have the link in the description below. And I was just kind of curious, like, who or what is Assured DeFi?
So Assured DeFi is the first company in the world to offer founder verification services for Web3 teams. We verify the people behind projects to ensure that legal accountability is in place and to add a trust layer in the space to protect investors and to provide documented legal accountability so that if fraud or scams occur, which are pretty prevalent in this space, there is a real path for investor recourse and also criminal responsibility for people who are committing fraud.
Right. Okay. So, for example, there was that One World coin a few years ago. Was it OneCoin or something like that?
Well, it would be hard for me to keep track given that there's been thousands, if not millions, of scams and frauds that have happened since I got into space. So that might be one example. Yeah, I don't have all of them by name now.
Okay. But say, for example, like a lot of the meme projects that people are just launching, if somebody had a concern about a particular meme coin that was being launched or that has just been launched or whatever, they'd bring it to you and then you would check it out. Is that how it works?
So typically, projects are getting verified before they launch, and projects will verify themselves so that they increase the amount of trust that the market has for them and that they can differentiate their project as one that's verified. Most projects in the space don't have verified teams. There's not really any legal accountability that's in place. And so it's basically buyer beware. If you buy in, you lose all your money. They scam, they run away with it. There's really nothing you can do about it. And the fraudsters get away with it and never get pursued. So The way that our service works is that a project would come, verify their team with us, and document that accountability, and then investors know publicly that the team has that documentation in place and that they're protected.
Okay, and what does the verification process involve?
So we're verifying the people behind the project. So we don't verify things like the tokenomics or the contract or the idea, the vision, the execution. This is all about verifying that we know who the people are, where they're located in the world, making sure that they are real people who have real identities, and that we've documented what social media accounts they control, what area of responsibility they have with the project, and what control they have over the money, whether they can edit the contract itself and they have private keys to the contract, or control things like a marketing wallet or development funds or treasury. And so we document all of that so that we have the right paperwork in place in case of fraud.
Does that also include checking out criminal record, or if there's a history of financial fraud or something?
To some degree. We don't do full background checks on people, and there's a reason for that. But we would know, for instance, if they had run another project that had been verified through us before, and we also do check them against global criminal watch lists, blacklists, excluded director lists from the FBI, SEC sanctions, things like that, to ensure that they're not on any naughty lists before approving them.
The advantage to the project that's been audited by you is that they can say, hey, listen, we've been checked out by Assured DeFi, and as far as they can tell, they've decided that we're kosher.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to describe it. It's a win for everybody. The business was designed so that every stakeholder, from platforms, influencers, the project itself, and also investors, it's really a win for all of them. When you look at it from a project perspective, and that's who our client is, they pay us in order to come and take that accountability. The benefit for them is this is a marketing play. It's a way to differentiate themselves versus the millions of other tokens that are out there that people could potentially buy and participate in. The key to marketing really is building trust. People do that in a lot of different ways. Projects look to build trust by having news articles by trusted outlets, by having influencers support them, by doing what they say they're going to do and executing on their vision. But ultimately, marketing is really about trying to get the users and the communities to trust in what's being created and trust in the value of the token. And so by coming and taking legal accountability with Assured DeFi, that's a big boost to trust. And we offer a lot of enhanced credibility for founding teams by taking that documented accountability. And we also have a very strong community ourselves that we can provide projects with credible exposure to give them some visibility for those credible builders who have a real project and have been willing to take that responsibility.
Okay. Now, what happens if a project doesn't pass your audit?
Well, there's only a couple reasons why somebody would go through our verification process and be rejected or fail. When you think about what we do, we're just verifying that you are who you say you are, you have a real identity, and that what you're claiming as your responsibility and role with the project is real. So the only reason why somebody gets rejected or doesn't pass our verification is if they're on a global watch list and we can't approve them, or if they lie or try to defraud us as a business going through the verification process. So if they would do something like submit a fake ID, if they claim that they're the developer of the project, and then when we dig into it, they actually aren't the developer of the project at all, and they have no access to what a developer would have, and it's just a paid frontman or actor, they might be rejected for that. But most projects that come through our business, they are credible people who are very easily able to prove who they are with their identity and able to prove that they have the role that they have.
Okay. All right. And how do you do the auditing? How do you check all this stuff out?
Most people in the space have been through a conventional KYC process, whether it be for a centralized exchange or another platform. So that's part of it. That process of identity verification for KYC has been around for a very long time. In the traditional financial services industry, even before blockchain, that existed. Knowing who your customer is or doing identity verification has existed for decades. Our process adapts that specifically for Web3. So that verification process includes a much deeper verification than just an identity check. Things, as I said, like tying your social media accounts to it and verifying ownership of social media accounts that you'll use to communicate. Physical locations and role and responsibility with the project are some of the key areas that we do that's different than what a KYC verification looks like for a centralized exchange that only takes 10 seconds. But this process was created by our business. We were the first ones in the world to do it. We collaborated with the FBI and the IRS Criminal Investigation Unit and a top criminal blockchain attorney in order to design a specific process that was designed for Web3 founders who would be controlling large sums of money to make sure that it was documented in the right way. And that's really what's novel about what we do, is that before Assure DeFi, there was no process that existed to properly verify Web3 teams. And we felt like that's a huge step in the right direction with what the industry needs, so that we're not viewed as a whole as a breeding ground for scams and fraud. And when people commit scams and rug pull in this space, that nothing ever happens and that law enforcement has no ability to pursue people criminally. And when investors lose money due to scams, there's nothing they can do about it. Before Assure DeFi, that was really, it was accepted as a norm. It's like, hey, that's just part of doing business. You're going to get scammed sometimes, tough cookies. And we just don't believe that's the way that it has to be. There's no reason why you can't have actual accountability in this space, just like the real world does. If you started a business and took investors, and then you took all of the investment money and ran off to a beach somewhere, you could be pursued, and you should be pursued. And we just believe that that's what's needed here in Web3 too.
Okay, but then you yourself, I mean, we've spoken about this before we started recording. You're not showing your face. Chapo Crypto is not the name you were given at birth by your parents, I suspect.
It was not.
Right, and you don't look like a logo.
That's right. I have a real face somewhere.
Yeah, you have a real face. So how can we trust you? You haven't even verified yourself. You could be me.
Well, you say we haven't verified ourselves. We actually have. We went through a third-party firm, and anybody who touches data in our organization is all third-party verified and global background checked. We're a US-based business, so we're incorporated here in the United States. We've been in business for 4 years, and we've worked with some of the top law enforcement agencies in the world, regularly respond to subpoenas and court orders in order to use the information we have on file for criminal prosecutions. And at the end of the day, if you feel, you say, how can you trust us? Well, we're a US-based business, and if you ever have any issues, you can sue us as a business. And there is a real identity behind our business. And so, although I may not be showing my face here, and my name isn't actually Chapo by birth, we're fully accountable for everything we do as a legal business.
Right. Okay. Now, the stuff that you've said about being involved in subpoenas and court cases and fully verifiable, is that publicly available? Like, I want to make sure that you're an authentic business that's going to be checking out the authenticity of these other projects.
Sure. Subpoenas and investigations are interesting. From a business perspective, we want to be able to share everything because it adds to our credibility when we do these things. And we typically do share as much as we're legally able to. However, a lot of investigations, there are limitations to what is legally allowable to share. Depending on the organization and depending on the investigation, there's a certain amount of transparency that is out there that you can see. But typically subpoena responses and court order responses and document transfers and things like that is very difficult to see the contents of them. And the details aren't as transparent as we'd love to make them.
Sure. Okay. And then, if anybody's watching, you can go through the website because there is information. There are other people on the team who, with their LinkedIn accounts, plus also names of legal firms that you're working with.
Sure, and you're obviously always welcome to talk to our attorneys too, who know us by real name, and we do have members of our team who are doxed public, and fully fully have the faces out there, unlike me as the founder.
Sure. Okay. Now, here's something else then, right? How do I know that you're not doing some deal in the background? Let me give you a rather topical example. We're recording this on Thursday, the 6th of February, and it came out a couple of days ago that Politico, the news organization, has been funded by USAID. So it's producing all these stories that have a particular bias because of who's paying their money in the background, who's paying them, and that's happening in the background. Nobody knows until a couple of days ago, right? So how do I know that, a project isn't coming up to you and saying, hey, listen, here's some Pirate Chain and Monero in the background. Give us a pass.
Sure. Well, I guess the right answer to that is that you don't. A lot of what we do in the background happens in a black box, and I think when you look at a lot of our competitors in the industry, you'd find that they probably are doing those backroom deals. And I think when you make a decision of who to trust in the space, a lot of it is about brand reputation. And it's looking at what we've done over the course of 4 years with the thousands of projects that we've investigated and who our partners are on the law enforcement side and the support we've gotten from some of the top law enforcement officials in the world. The fact that we're a long-term business and we have served the space professionally for 4 years. And by doing any type of deal like that, we'd be risking everything that we've built and grown towards. So it wouldn't make much sense for us to ever do that. I think you can also look at our history of how many projects we reject and how we do our job effectively and how stringent our verification process is and our track record of verified project performance and the very small amount of fraudulent or scammy projects that have come through that have been verified. I think you'll see, if you look at the whole market, 99.9% of projects are scams, or tokens that launch are scam tokens right now in the market. 36 million plus tokens in the world, and 99.9% of them are going to zero and are completely fraudulent. Whereas for Assure DeFi, we verified over 1,000 projects, and only 11 of them have warranted investigations. So we're talking about roughly 1% of the projects that come and get verified, we have sufficient enough evidence that something fraudulent may have occurred to warrant an investigation. And so I think when you look at those types of stats, that really paints the picture as far as how we do business. We want to limit that and ultimately drive it to zero, where when projects are verified through Assure DeFi, you're confident that they're not frauds. And so ultimately, no investigations are needed, and the market can just trust when a project's verified. And we're getting very close to that already.
Yeah,
that's our goal.
Yeah, and what that doesn't take care of, understandably, right? There's not a criticism of you, Chapo, is that you can verify a project, it's all authentic, it's not a scam, and it can still fail for other reasons.
Sure, and that happens all the time, right? Again, looking at the stats, 99% of projects are going to zero. That's just the fact. It's just like the real world where 9 out of 10 businesses fail, but failure is very different than fraud. And we say that pretty often, Rich, that projects can fail. We expect them to fail. Failure is part of learning, and a lot of people are experimenting and trying things in this space, and there's going to be a high rate of failure. If 9 in 10 traditional real world businesses are failing, it's going to be 99 out of 100 in an experimental new space like this.
Yeah.
What we want is we want to eliminate the fraud and the scams and the manipulation and the malicious bad actors. That's what we're trying to address. You can never address the failure of new ventures.
Sure. And just on that, it's important for people to bear in mind that whether or not they're investing in any project that has passed your checks or hasn't passed your checks or any project at all, don't put in any more than you can afford to lose, because there's no guarantees. And that goes for any type of investment, I suppose, with the possible exception of gold. But that may be more bias.
And Bitcoin. Don't forget Bitcoin.
Bitcoin doesn't have the history of gold. That's all.
Yeah, we view what we do as part of the overall puzzle. So just because a contract has been audited doesn't make it a good investment. It doesn't make it a good project. It doesn't make it safe. Just because the funds are held in a multi-sig type of wallet account doesn't make it safe. Just because the vision's good doesn't make it safe. Just because the tokenomics are good doesn't make it safe. And just because the team has been verified doesn't make it safe. When you do due diligence as an investor, or you're doing your own research, everybody says, do your own research before investing. Most people don't really know what that means. And those who do, it's typically incomplete. And so what we want is for people to get in the mindset of starting to think about the team as well as all of those other things. And we believe that what we do is important, and having real accountability in place is a positive indicator. Having unverified teams that can run away with the money with no recourse is a red flag. And there's plenty of projects that have been incredibly successful without verified teams. Yep. So at the same token, there's been plenty of projects who have been unsuccessful with verified teams. So it's not an indicator in and of itself, but it should be part of the diligence process. And obviously, if a team is willing to take legal accountability for what they're building, that should be a positive sign. Just like if they've gone through and paid for contract audits and you know that you're not going to get exploited or rugged because of the contract. And so it's just one step. It's one piece of the overall puzzle. And I think that's important for people to know. You can't take it as the be-all, end-all indicator, but it should be part of what you're looking for. And before you throw hard-earned money at people, if it was me, I'd want to know that there's some accountability in place and that they're willing to take responsibility for my money. Yeah, and that's what we do.
Yeah, fair enough. Absolutely. And it is from our failures that we learn. And boy, have I failed a few times in crypto.
We all have. If you've been here long enough, we've all failed enough. I mean, this business was really born, Rich, out of my personal experience and needs. So, yeah, I've been in the space for about 9 years now. And it's my journey in the crypto world started as a very bad investor, making a bunch of money, losing a bunch of money, getting rugged left and right, and learning a lot of painful, expensive lessons. Made a lot of friends along the way too.
Yep.
But some very expensive lessons. And I wanted a way where it would be easier for people to differentiate between real teams and the scammers and grifters of the world. And this was the path to me. I actually got rugged for 6 figures, and the day after, that was in early 2021. And I looked at it and I said, at the time, I was an influencer in the space. I was a consultant and an advisor. I had 5 years of experience. I had technical knowledge. I had a great network. I was considered an insider, and yet I still got rugged. It was embarrassing for me personally. It was a reputational hit as well as a financial hit. And I didn't want to continue to be part of the problem. I wanted to be part of the solution. And when I looked at what happened, I said, this has to be something that's more of a systemic problem. I have more experience and time here and more connections and knowledge than most will ever have in the crypto world. And if I can get rugged like this and embarrassed, then almost anybody can. And something has to change for this space to continue forward. Otherwise, everybody will always look at the crypto space as one big scam. And so that's why I chose to build this business. It was literally the day after I got rugged for 6 figures that I said, it's never going to happen to me again. Or if it does happen to me, I'm going to be able to do something about it. And this is the company that I built in order to make sure that was in place and available for both teams and investors to demand moving forward.
Right. Okay. Very good. Very good. That's clear. And there's no cure for human frailty and folly. It just isn't. Okay. What about established projects? They've been going for a few years. Perhaps they ICO'd in 2017 or something, or before that. Do they come to you to ask for verification? Do any of the big name projects ever come to you?
We work with a lot of different types of projects, all the way from tier 1 upper echelon down through the fair launch meme coins. So we're blockchain agnostic, we're size agnostic, we're stage agnostic to answer your question. Our business now deals with anywhere between 30 to 100 projects a month. And those projects are at all different stages and have a lot of different needs. And so we've built our business to do a whole lot more than just verifications. Typically, that's the aspect of our business that I talk about the most because it's what we were founded on. It's what people know us for. And typically the reason why people are coming to Assure DeFi is for that verification and that trust. But with that said, we are a full-blown accelerator now where we offer development support, audits, marketing and promotion, legal structuring for tokenized entities, support with fundraising, doing OTC deals, influencer onboarding and management, and almost anything A to Z that a project needs to grow, Assure DeFi can support projects at any stage doing. So to answer your question, the value of the verification is diminished after market trust is already established, which is why most times the projects who are coming to us for verification services are at an early stage, either pre-launch or shortly after their launch. We work with projects in a lot of other capacities, though, and that's more where we would see the project you're referring to, and we would just have a different client profile there for a more established project.
Right. Okay. So, okay, that's interesting that you offer that service. So, supposing somebody's looking to, they got a little bit of crypto that no more than they can afford to lose. They want to put it in a particular project, perhaps an NFT project or an AI project or RWA or a meme coin. Are they able to identify those projects on via your website?
They certainly are. You can go see what all projects have been verified on our website pretty easily. Search for projects, and we have a full list of those projects that have been verified. What I encourage everyone to do is exactly what I do personally. I get requests every day to invest in private sales, pre-sales, buy tokens. I get shilled live tokens that are available to buy on decentralized exchanges and large projects. I get asked to be an influencer for projects, be part of teams, work with them. These types of requests are daily and they're plentiful, I'll say. My response is always this: get verified and then I'll consider it. And it's that easy. Really, what I think investors should be doing more is when they find a project they like, they should see whether that team has been verified. If the team isn't verified, they should be telling the team and encouraging them and demanding them to get verified. You guys aren't verified right now, so I have no protection. I like the project. I like what I see here. I'm interested in investing, but I'm not going to where there's no accountability in place.
Right.
If people started saying that to teams would realize that there's value in getting verified, and then this would become more of an industry standard, just like audits have become. I've been around long enough that I saw the entire rise of audits in this space on contracts. Back 8 years ago, very few contracts with live trading tokens actually were audited. And soon people started seeing that this code isn't always safe. I'm investing in this thing and it's getting exploited. I'm investing in it, and then the contract allowed the dev or the people in control to rug me. And soon audits started becoming more of an expectation. Investors started demanding audits. If it was unaudited code, people wouldn't invest. And so a lot of infrastructure was built around making sure that code was safe. And investors started having that as part of their checklist. Before they would invest, they would make sure the code is safe. Our goal as a business is to put that same level of expectation on the teams and the people, because every project has two aspects. They have the code and you have the people behind the project. And we just believe that auditing the people behind the project is just as important, if not more, than the code itself. I think there's just an education curve that's needed here, and there's time for people to understand that this service exists, it's available, it's not expensive, it can benefit them, and have people start to really leverage what's been built here to their advantage.
Okay, very good. Yeah, very interesting. I've been looking through as we're talking your website, the verified projects, and there's one project that I'm going to mention. I actually bought some of their tokens, and it's ATAX.
Okay.
Bought some of their tokens a few weeks ago. They do. I've not covered them on my channel at all, but it's a way of getting a tax deductible report through your wallet addresses like your MetaMask and Kepler and stuff, just to make it easy, that accountability. So this is a project that you've done the KYC on, and it says Joey is the founder. He's in a tier 1 country, which is a country with a strong law enforcement. So I assume that, that would be the United States or the UK or the European Union or somewhere like that, perhaps Japan. And then it's got social contracts, and it says that he has control over the treasury and also over the contract. So then that would be a risk that I could take into account, versus say another project where you've checked out that they don't have any control over the contract or anything. And then I'm looking on the audit score 95 out of 100. The contract address wasn't available at time of verification. And then there's an initial report and a final report that's available. Do you want to, just using that as an example, or any other project, say a little bit about the initial reports and the final reports?
Sure. Yeah, our goal is to provide and arm investors with better information. Most of the time when you visit a website for an early stage project, you might not even have information of who the team is. Yep. You may not be able to find out who the leader is, and there's certainly not information about what individuals actually control and what aspects of the project they have access to and have control over, what private keys they own, that sort of thing. I think that in and of itself is very valuable information for an investor to know, that they understand who's been verified and who's taken accountability, what role they have. We have that global tier score for the country. You indicated it perfectly accurately, that tier 1 countries have stronger law enforcement. It's countries like the US or the UK that have governments, law enforcement, and regulators that would be willing to pursue things. I'm sure you understand, and everybody does, that if we verify somebody from Central Africa, since this is such a global space, we could verify somebody from Central Africa and they could take accountability for it. But if they commit fraud, it's much more difficult to ever pursue them.
Yep.
And so that's why we indicate it there, because you could have the exact same verification for 2 different projects, but if one of them is from Central Africa and one of them is from the United Kingdom, there's a very different level of actual protection or potential pursuit there if something happens, and we think investors deserve to know that. We have a business that is really founded on privacy, and so as you see, just like my face isn't shown here and my name isn't Chapo, we don't believe that privacy and accountability need to be mutually exclusive. We actually believe that the aspect of being anonymous or pseudonymous in this space is one of the beautiful things about it. It's different than every other industry in the world. Most people don't understand it, but there's a reason why I'm anonymous. It's not because I'm a bad actor. It's because I hold a significant amount of wealth and also sensitive data that people would want access to. And I have the right to my privacy, and I have the right to my own personal and family safety. And that's part of it. There's other reasons why people are anonymous in this space, like it turns it into a meritocracy. Women in this space have a harder time sometimes than men because it's so male dominated. And the aspect of being anonymous means that nobody knows whether you're a man or a woman on the other end of the screen. If you're from Central Africa or India and somebody knows that, they may be prejudiced against you for one reason or another. And this space allows for you to remove that prejudice and bias. And so there's all sorts of reasons why somebody may want to keep their privacy from their personal identity, and there's no reason why that necessarily means that they're a bad actor. And so this whole system that we've designed allows people to maintain their personal privacy while still taking that accountability. And so the way that our process and what's publicly shown there on the site that lists all of our projects, the way that that's outlined, it allows for that. So it doesn't say what country they're from.
Yep.
Because there could be potential bias there, but it's not important what country people are from. What's important is understanding, is there a path to recourse if something happens? That's what people should care about. Yep. And so the tier system is important because that is a piece of information which matters as far as how much protection this verification really provides. But the actual country isn't, and that's to remove any bias that could potentially come out of it.
Fair enough. Thank you. Okay. Do you want to give us some stories? And you can make them really bad stories as well, the racy, juicy ones, without naming the projects, of course. And also some.
Well, we've certainly got plenty of stories. I could probably spend hours telling you stories, but where would you like the stories focused on?
Just a couple of. I can tell you stories that I deal with as a social worker. Some will just make your heart weep, right? And also the oddities of human beings. the things that stand out that are somehow different from the norm in some way or another that kind of register and stay with you?
Well, boy, in my almost decade in this space, I have stories for days. I was telling somebody the other day that a Netflix documentary is probably in order, but from the business perspective,
Yeah.
we've I think a lot of people think that they're smarter than they are, and so they'll come and try to earn the badge of trust that we provide. And so we've had some pretty comical verification calls with people who had nothing to do with the business at all, had no idea what the project even was about, but were claiming to be the founder. I think some of the most comical stories I have about Assure DeFi and our experience have been the verification calls that we take with these people who are trying to defraud the verification process and they get caught in their lies. I have a bunch of those stories, but I'm not sure. What are you looking for?
It's just something interesting, human interest, given that I'm a social worker. But from what you're saying, it'd be like, let's say I'm setting up a project and I want to get verified by you, but I'm a complete shyster. So instead of me turning up on the phone call or the Skype call or the Zoom call to have with you, I send along somebody else.
Yeah, your neighbor. Your neighbor who agreed for $100 that he'd come and give us his ID on behalf of it. And then when we talk to him, we start asking him deeper questions about the project and what he's done from a development standpoint to show us his GitHub repo on his development. And then he starts panicking and quickly scrambles and then ends the call quickly after swearing a few times.
That's so funny. I get something a little bit like that. There's a particular cryptocurrency project where it's established for a few years. And when you go in a Telegram group and you ask a question, and then I get DMs. Sometimes they'll call me offering to help me, and I know they're a scam straight away. A cousin of mine is actually an admin on a particular project's Telegram group, and I've posted a few questions in there. I don't want to harass my cousin, and then I'll get people pretending to be my cousin, calling me up. I've met 3 crypto riches over Telegram, and not one of them were me. So
I'll tell you one of the funniest ones that you might get a kick out of is these services. Now that we've created an industry for Project KYC, we aren't the only company in the world that does this now. Some of the top companies in the space on the security side, like Sturdic, have released their own Project KYC offering. And so we take that as a great compliment, that we've created a service that is needed, the market has recognized it, and now leaders in the space have created a competitive offering for it. So when you consider what we just talked about, hiring your neighbor in order to do the verification on your behalf, there's very few companies in the world. Well, there's really no other company in the space that is as thorough as we are. And to your point, there's a lot of KYC providers out there that essentially are doing glorified ID checks. And so your neighbor would easily pass. And so there's now an entire industry of frontmen and paid actors who are willing to verify on behalf of projects. So there's these whole scam rings of people in Eastern Europe and Africa, and even with the United States and Canada IDs that are willing for $100 to go verify themselves on behalf of your project so you can earn the badge. And I'd say one of the funniest things is when they DM me personally as the founder and CEO and the person who had created this whole concept of Project KYC, and they ask me whether I need them in order to be a frontman for my project.
Wow! Oh my God!
And I get those almost weekly. I get weekly people DMing me, asking me, telling me that they're willing to KYC on behalf of my project and that they'll do it for $100 or $150. And it's actually been interesting. I've uncovered some of these scam rings by taking them up on the offer and having them come through our verification process, and then rejecting them, and then putting them on a blacklist. So that's one of the funny things. Maybe that's a story you'd chuckle over.
That is, I would listen. I'll contact you and say, listen, I'll pretend to be you for one Dogecoin. Deal?
You're a cheap date, brother.
Well, I don't want to. I'm not. I don't want to scam you too much. One Dogecoin. Okay. And then what about something that's been really, really successful?
Well, look, when I started this business, the goal I had was to make KYC in the space, project verifications, and industry standard. We're not there yet, but in a lot of ways, I think we've already been incredibly successful. I mean, 4 years later, we've verified thousands of projects. We have global competitors. It's integrated into launch pads. It's becoming a standard for people to look for. A large portion of the investors and users in this space understand what it is and why it has value. And so I always said, if we get to a point where if Assured DeFi goes to zero and we close up shop, that this concept that we've created and pioneered will live on forever, and we'll have left a positive footprint on the space. And I think we're already there. I think that there's enough people that offer it and it's integrated and understand it. And we have these top tier competitors now in the market too, that I consider my personal biggest success the fact that we've brought this to the space and that this concept makes sense and that it will continue to be perpetuated whether Assured DeFi is here or not. So that's my biggest success. So I feel like I'm playing with house money at this point, Rich. I already did really what I wanted to do. Now it's just a matter of how much more can we do? How much closer can we get to it actually being an industry standard where money doesn't go to people who aren't verified? Why would you invest money in an unverified team? It doesn't make sense. If there's a whole market of verified projects to pick from, and then there's a whole market that's this black market of unverified people with no responsibility and accountability who can run away and have no recourse, why the hell would you even look at the other side of the market? The goal is to have a big enough pool of projects that are verified to pick from that you'd be crazy to play in that dangerous casino. And it really segments the market to those that are responsible and accountable and those that aren't. And that's what we're really working towards now.
That's great. Very good. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to say before we finish up?
Well, first of all, thank you for the time. It's great to meet you. And I appreciate you taking the time to do this. The last thing I'll leave everybody with is that this is not a difficult process. You can get in touch with us. You can go to our website. Projects can, at any time of the day and any day of the week, go start a verification process. The cost of getting verified is less than $1,000. It's inexpensive compared to what most of these projects are dealing with from a total budget perspective, but it's incredibly important. To me, it's one of the top things you should look for when investing. And the only way it's really ever going to change is if you, as the investors and those with money, you talk with your money and you demand better of the people that you're giving money to. And so I just encourage anyone to demand that projects that you're participating in get verified. It's a benefit for everybody. It helps the project. Ultimately, projects that are verified perform better, and that's what you want. So it's not just about accountability. It's about actual price action and performance. And being verified by Assured DeFi plugs that project into a network of resources, a support growth system, and also gives them the credibility and the public visibility that you really want as a token holder. So it's in your best interest to recommend that projects that you're talking with or invested in, that you demand it or you recommend that they go get verified. And when we start doing that, we're going to see a lot different crypto space. So that's what I'd like to leave everyone with.
Great. Well, Chapo, thank you so much. I've enjoyed this conversation. I've learned loads. I have the links to your website and your X account in the description below. And I do invite people to check this out. If you are looking for a project that at least has been verified, that the people behind it aren't shysters, that they're willing to front themselves and be checked, then go check out assureddefi.com. And between now and when I see you next, please keep filling your pockets with crypto profits. Crypto Chapo and Chapo Crypto and Crypto Rich signing out. All the best. Bye-bye.